Well, thanks for joining me. This won't be too long, but I wanted to cover some information regarding student loans. Student loans are in the news all the time now, or certainly have been within the last couple of weeks. So just wanted to touch on some things as it relates to student loans. So we're with Bond and Botus, and our lawyers, as we tell folks, we've been handling all types of debt situations for the last 30 years or so. And we like to, internally anyway, joke amongst ourselves that if there's an issue about a debt or about debts that comes up that we're not familiar with, then really we think it's an issue or a debt problem of first impression, meaning we've seen a lot of stuff over our years. With that, we always talk to folks, people have questions, and no one wants to share their debt situation with anyone. I mean, it's a very personal, intimate thing. We understand that. If you have questions about your debts in general, go to our blog post or our blog at bondandbotus.com. You may already be at the website, but if someone's listening to this externally, it's bondandbotus.com. That's BONDANDBOTES.com. Or you also can get to us through BONDNBOTES.com. So got a lot of information on our blog site. Just type in whatever your question is in our question box at our blog. And you should come up with some ready answers that'll at least help you get started on your research. So with that said, let's talk student loans. Again, a lot of news out there with student loans as far as forgiveness. I'm going to kind of get to that in a second. First order of business, we tell folks, know what your student loans are. We run into a lot of folks who have no idea. They think maybe they had a student loan, but they're not sure. They're not sure what the type is, that type of thing. So know what the student loans are. First order of business is get your credit reports. And you don't have to pay for them. Get the free ones. A lot of sites try to urge you and encourage you to buy them. You don't have to. Get the free ones, and they're just as good. They're from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, the major 3 credit reporting agencies. Get your reports this way. Go to annualcreditreport.com. Again, that's annualcreditreport.com. You can get all 3 reports that way. You have to verify that you are who you say you are. Here's the trick to it. You only get one look. After one look, then you got to buy them. So make sure you're at a computer where you can save your credit reports, and ideally not only save them, but also print them as well. That way you've got all 3 of them, all pages, at the ready for your review. So once you do that, you should be able to figure out if you have other debts, also if you have student loan debts, and kind of what the status of all your debts are. Let's talk about other debts first. If there's something that's showing up that doesn't look right, that you disagree with, maybe you've paid it, you don't owe it, you don't know what it is. Again, at our blog post, or if you go to our blog site, in the question box, type in, how can I fix my credit report from any error? We've got a detailed explanation of how to do that if there's an error on your credit report. Again, don't do that with student loans just yet. Just do it with other debts. But now looking at the student loan debt, you can kind of tell from your credit reports what is out there, because they do report to the credit reporting agencies. Here's the other way to do it as well. I want you to do the credit reports. I think that's important. But also go to this site, studentaid.gov. That's studentaid.gov. Click on My Aid, and then go ahead and enroll in it. Not enroll, but set up an account. That way you'll know what those are. Those are the government student loans, hopefully with the U.S. Department of Education. You can also call if you're having trouble with that site. It's 800, the number 4, Fed Aid, 800-4 FED-AID. And also the actual number is 800-433-3243. So that'll tell you what your student loans look like, the government student loans, and also you'll pick up any private student loans by looking at your credit reports. It's important to know the distinction, whether they're held by the U.S. Department of Education or if they're private student loans. If they're private student loans, and they're private student loans, hold off doing anything. Because if they're very old, and if you haven't made a payment, you now make a small payment or work it out, then you arguably are going to restart the statute of limitations in most jurisdictions. So that's problematic. Talk to a lawyer if they're private student loans, so you kind of know what that status is like and what you do and what you may not do and how that's going to impact you. Whether you make a payment, whether you try to consolidate those with the U.S. Department of Education, which is doable. But again, that creates issues. So that's something you want to discuss with a lawyer if they're private student loans. So if the loans are held by the U.S. Department of Education, and frankly, that's what we want. That's what we've advised folks for years to do, because that's what gives you wiggle room and the ability to kind of work through your student loans easier than if they're private student loans. And that's really evident by the fact that it's very easy, and it was easy when you got your private student loans and you were wondering why. I did it myself. You were wondering why this is so easy, because there's not a lot of wiggle room since it's a private entity. So when I say wiggle room, I mean workarounds, and if something goes wrong with your student loans, or with your debt situation. So it's important to note under the new laws that are coming out, if the loans are federal family education loans, and the acronym is FFEL, or if they're Perkins loans. A lot of times those are not held by the U.S. Department of Education, and those won't be covered by the new changes. So note that. And then again, if you want to talk to a lawyer about that, that's advisable. Kind of figure it out, because those types of loans, again, those are not private student loans, they're government loans, but they didn't fall under Department of Ed. You want to get those transferred or consolidated under the Department of Education, because that's where these new benefits are coming from. So the big thing is, and what everyone hears, is the debt cancellation, right, for your student loan. And it's $10,000 as long as the income per individual is $125,000 or less, or for a joint husband and wife or a spousal unit filing, $250,000. Also, if you had a Pell Grant, they add another 10 to that. So that's a total cancellation of $20,000. Make sure, if you remember getting a Pell Grant, try to find that information so you can have ready access to it, and you can show them, hey, I got a Pell Grant, so that amount should double to $20,000 instead of 10. That would be a lot of help. There's also a payment pause extension on all student loans and all government student loans. And this includes the FFEL loans and the Perkins loans until January 1st, 2023. So interest doesn't accrue during these time periods. You're not going to get your tax refunds withheld. Social Security won't be withheld. There won't be any tax levies or garnishments. So that's good news. That gives you a couple, 2, 3, 4 months here. I'm losing my dates a little bit since we just started fall football season, but that gives you a little bit of time to figure out what's going on, what loans you have, and what you can do. So there's a lot of good things here, like I said, in this law. So you've got the cancellation, I just said, the payment pause extension. A lot of people ran into problems over the last 5-6 years with the public service forgiveness option for a lot of people who work in a public service position, and those are pretty broad as far as the definition. People maybe missed payments, they weren't sure what applied, maybe there was a forbearance. A lot of that is going to be forgiven, and so you won't have lost out on the time period. Look at that if you have a public service position and you were trying to get rid of the loans after making your 120 qualifying payments. There's a lot more forgiveness on that as far as, did you miss a payment? Was there a forbearance? That type of thing. So look at that. But the deadline to act, this is really important. The deadline to act is this coming Halloween, October 31st, 2022. If you don't put in your waiver to ask for dispensation, if you will, or forgiveness on what you missed and what didn't exactly fit right under the public service waiver or forgiveness, then you'll lose out. So look at that. That's really important. Be mindful of that date, October 31st, 2022, and don't wait. Do it now. If you have a public service for loan that you were looking for loan forgiveness under this prong, work on that now. So there's that. There's another good thing is for a lot of folks are on income-driven repayment plans, and they've been doing that for several months. Or several years, really. And that's where you make a smaller payment based upon your income that you've already plugged into the system. It's 25 years. After 25 years, the balance of the loan would be forgiven. People miss. People aren't sure. They thought they made the payment. Maybe they didn't. So there's a lot of adjustments and tracking time. If you missed or had a problem, that's going to be forgiven now under this new provision and this new right. So look at that as well, if that's kind of a prong you were looking at as under student loans. Social Security. If you're on Social Security now, it used to be you'd have to put in for with Department of Education loans a waiver, a hardship waiver to get the student loan discharged. Right now, they're under this new provision, they're going to be forgiven automatically. So that's really good news. But follow up on that. And what we tell folks is if you're getting Social Security disability, that means the Social Security Administration has determined you as being disabled. Get whatever documentation you have. Don't leave it up for the Department of Education to try to locate you and find out whether you are or not disabled. Submit it. Get them the information showing, hey, I get disability or Social Security disability. You had to go through a hearing where a judge determined you being disabled, get the whole document, submit that to the Department of Education as well. Anything and everything you have showing you get Social Security disability, submit that and ask for the discharge of your student loan debt. Also, private student loans, we talked about that a little bit. If you had private student loans with Navient, it used to be Sallie Mae, SLM, it's now Navient. In a lot of jurisdictions now, there's additional defenses and discharges and refunds that are available where they may let those loans go. So look at that as well. Again, if they were private student loans, Navient, Sallie Mae, or SLM. So look at that. A lot of this information I'm talking about today is available at a great website. It's the National Consumer Law Center. Just a plug for that organization. They do a lot of good work for consumers, and they've been doing it for many, many years. The website is nclc.org. Again, nclc.org. Look at that. Put your time in here. I mean, if you have student loan debt, now's the time to really, get involved in it. And the student loan debt, the amount of folks that are in trouble with student loans, and when I say in trouble, defaulted, they've just been hanging out there. It's marred their credit report for years. Now's really the time to kind of explore this because you can get a lot of benefit here, and it can really right the ship for you going forward on a lot of different fronts, whether it's discharge, forgiveness, getting things righted. A lot of benefits. So again, nclc.org, look at that. Keep an eye on our website, bondandbotus.com, bondandbotes.com. We'll keep up on the information as well. You need help, reach out to us. Again, student loans are tricky, and they've been tricky for a lot of years for a lot of folks. The number of defaulted student loans or in some sort of problematic status is phenomenal. So this is a real opportunity for folks to get things righted. So I hope this has been helpful, and reach out to us if you need our help. Thanks.